Adaptation in animals. Animals are multicellular, that is made of eukaryotic organisms, and it belongs to the kingdom Animalia. The word animals came from Greek term animalis, meaning being which breeds. Kingdom Animalia is the most complex of all kingdoms. It is divided into two classifications, which are the vertebrates and invertebrates. Vertebrates are the species of animals which has a backbone, and invertebrates do not have a backbone. The peculiarity of animals is that they have the ability of locomotion and the set of height in the nervous system. The presence of a specific creatures is a certain habit that enable an animal to adapt and live to its surroundings is called adaptation. Different animals are adapted to different surroundings in many different ways. Adaptation does not take place in short time. It takes thousands of years for living beings adapt to their habitat. Now, we'll have a look at few animals to understand how they have adapted to their surroundings. For this, we will require an earthworm, and a cockroach, and a bird. Let's study the earthworm first. An earthworm comes from the family Annelida and is commonly known as a night crawlers. There are over 3,000 species of earthworm around the world. It has a long cylindrical body that is covered by a most protective cuticle, and its body is divided into about a 150 segment called annuli. Okay, the other end is the anus, to which feces excreted. There is a thickening gland section of the body wall that secretes sac in which the eggs are deposited. This is called clitellum. A specific feature of phylum Annelida, the interior and exterior of body is segmented, moist and slippery. Setae help this creature attach to the surface and it prevents it from slipping during peristaltic movement. Adaptation. It has a brown-colored skin which resembles a mound, and this gives protection for the earthworm. It feeds on humus, which is rich in organic matter that is found in soil. It has long cylindrical body and is symmetrical, and it helps to. We'll now look at the cockroach. The cockroach is under the classification which is called Arthropoda. Its body is segmented into three main parts with a head, thorax, and abdomen. Its body is protected of an exoskeleton that is made of thick cuticle which is called chitin. It has two supersensitive hair found at the end part of abdomen which is called cerci. It has a pair of long antennae which help it smell its food, and versatile mouth part which help it to eat to anything that it could eat. Specific feature of phylum Arthropoda. The appendages are joined. The body is segmented into three. It possesses an exoskeleton. Adaptation. They live in a dark and moist damp place such as gutters and drain. It has a dark brown color which helps it hide in a dark space and crevices. It has a flat body which helps it squeeze into gap and narrow spaces. On sensing danger, it can run very fast off its leg or fly short. We'll have look at our last animal which is the bird. It belongs to the phylum Chordata and Aves. It is adapted for an aerial habitat that has wings and feather. It has a streamlined body which is helped it cut through air. Bird have a four-chambered heart. It has a dome. Future of the phylum Chordata and Aves. It has a strong skeleton system which helps its flying. They are warm-blooded animal. Its limbs are modified into wings for flying into air. Its hind limbs are adapted to walk, swim, or grab hold of its food. The layer of the feather are insulation for cold, warm season and rain to keep them warm. Their muscles are well developed to help them lift themselves up and fly. Their bones are pneumatic, which means that they are hollow and light in weight. They have five sense of hearing, sharp eyesight, which help them to locate food from distance. They possess extraordinary song-like abilities which they use for communicating with each other.
Good morning, everyone. Let's discuss about adaptation of animals. Animal adaptations. An adaptation is something about an animal that makes it possible for it to live in a particular place and in a particular way. It may be a physical adaptation, like the size or shape of the animal's body, or the way in which its body works, or it may be the way the animal behaves. Each adaptation has been produced by evolution. As the environment changes, animals that cannot adapt die out, and only the adapted ones survive to produce babies, because babies are usually more or less like their parents. The whole species soon contains only animals that are adapted to the new environment. An animal's environment consists of many different things. The climate is important, whether it's hot, cold, dry, or wet, will have an effect on all the creatures that live in a particular place. Another important part of an animal's environment is what kinds of plants grow in it. The other animals that live there also have an effect. If there are predators around, the prey animals will have to learn to defend themselves or run fast to escape. These adaptations make it possible for a great variety of creatures to live and thrive on Earth. Animals adapt to the natural world. Animals in the wild can only live in a place that they are adapted. They must have the right kind of habitat where they can find the food and space they need. So this is the things to do when we encounter an animal that we are willing to adapt it. So all about sharks. Shark never run out of teeth. A shark's jaw is lined with many rows of teeth. A shark may go through thousands of teeth during its lifetime. It's an adaptation for an animal that depends on its teeth for survival. To the ball python, how are large snakes such as pythons able to swallow prey that is bigger than their own heads? It's because their jaws are adapted to do so. The bones of their mouth are loosely joined to their skulls. About beavers, find out how beavers are adapted for underwater work. For a bobcat's canine teeth, the four long, sharp pointed teeth in the front of their mouths are spaced just exactly far enough apart to separate the vertebrae of rabbits so that they can kill them with one bite. About frogland, frogs are carnivores. They eat insects, spiders, worms, snails, fish, and even small rodents like mice. When a frog spots a tasty meal, it flicks out its long, sticky tongue. For more amazing animal adaptation, check out more the book.
Good morning, everyone. After we discuss protecting and support, let's proceed to the next topic, which is movement. So let's discuss about the non-muscular movement and muscular system. Non-muscular movement is all cells have some capacity to move and changes shape due to their cytoskeleton. Protozoa and protists move by means of specific non-muscular or pseudopodia, flagellia, or cilia that involve the contractile proteins actin and myosin. Interactions between these proteins are also responsible for muscle contraction in animals. About the amoebic movement. But before that, amoeba belongs to the phylum. The plasma membrane of an amoeba has adhesive properties since new pseudopodia attach to the substrate as they form. The plasma membrane also seems to slide over the underlaying lying layer of cytoplasm. When an amoeba moves, the plasma membrane may be rolling in a way that is roughly analogous to a bulldozer truck rolling over its wheels. This is the example of the movement of amoeboid movement. After the amoeboid movement, let's proceed to ciliary and flagellar movement. Cilia are shorter and more numerous. Flagella are long and generally occur singly or in pairs. Ciliary movements are coordinated. The epidermis of free-living flatworms and nemertines is abundantly ciliated. The smallest specimen lie at the upper end of the size range of efficient locomotion using cilia. Larger flatworms have retained ciliary creeping as the principal means of locomotion, and the largest animals moved by ciliary creeping are the nemertines. So this is the example of flagellum and cilia. So let's proceed to an introduction of animal muscle. Muscle tissue has three other important properties. Number 1, excitability or irritability. Number 2, extensibility. And the last is elasticity. Animals may have one or more of the following types of muscle tissue: smooth, cardiac, and skeletal. The contractile cells of this tissue is called muscle fibers. Smooth muscle is called involuntary muscles because higher brain centers do not control its contractions. Single nucleus is spindle-shaped, arranged in a parallel pattern to form sheets. Striated muscle fibers with single nucleus are common in invertebrates, but they occur in adult vertebrates only in the heart, where they are called cardiac muscles. So this is the example of cardiac muscle, smooth muscle, and skeletal muscles. The muscular system of invertebrates. All invertebrates are animals have without backbones. A few functional differences among invertebrates' muscles indicate some of the differences from the vertebrate skeletal muscles. The locomotion of soft body invertebrates. First, pedal locomotion, move by means of waves of activity in the muscular system that apply to the substrate. An earthworm uses its hydrostatic skeleton to crawl.
My topic is all about animal structure and function. So, to form a function of animal body is followed to the chapters of specific body system and processes. So, I will going to discuss the function of animals.
A structure is anything made up of parts held together. Animals have many structure that helps them to survive. Some structure are internal, like the lungs, brain, and heart. Other structures are external, like the skin, eyes, and claws. Some structure are unique, like the long neck of giraffe. Other structure are more common, like a heart. So, we preload the animal body. The structures of animals consist of primary tissues that make up more complex organs, an organ system. Homeostasis allows an animals to maintain a balance between internal and external environments. Animal form and function. Animals vary in form and function. From a sponge to worm to a goat, an organism has distinct body plans that limit its size and shape. Animals' body are also designed to interact with their environments, whether in the deep sea, a rainforest, canopy, or the desert. Therefore, a large amount of information about the structure of an organism body or the anatomy and the function of its cells, tissues, and organs or physiology and can be learned by studying that organism environment. So, animal primary tissues. The tissues of multicellular complex animals are four primary types. First is the epithelial, second is the connectives, third is the muscle, and fourth is the nervous. Recall that tissues are groups of similar cells carrying out the related functions. These tissues combine to form organs, like the skin or kidney, that have specific specialized function within the body. Organs are organized into organ system to perform function. So, we proceed to the nutrition and energy production of animals. Given the diversity of animal life on our planet, it is not surprising that the animal's diet would also vary substantially. The animal diet is the source of materials needed to building DNA and other complex molecules needed for growth, maintenance, and reproduction. Collectively, this process also called biosynthesis. The diet is also the source of materials of ATP production in the cell. The diet must be balanced to provide the minerals and vitamins that are required to cellular function. Obtaining nutrition and energy from is a multi-step process. For the true animals, the first step is ingestion, the act of taking in food. This is followed by digestion, absorption, and elimination. So, digestive system regulation of animals. The brain is the control center for sensation or hunger and satiety. The function of the digestive system are regulated through neutral and hormonal responses. So, what is the structure of living things? Cells are the most basic building unit of life. All living things are composed of cells, and new cells are made from pre-existing of cells. The basic unit of life include an organization, metabolism, responsive, movements, and reproduction. In humans, who represent the most complex form of life, there are an additional requirements such as growth, differentiation, respiration, digestion, and excretion. All these processes are interrelated. Animals' organs and organ system constantly adjust to internal changes through process called homeostasis in steady state. These changes might be in the level of glucose or calcium in blood or in internal temperature. Homeostasis means maintain dynamic equilibrium in the body. It is dynamic because it's constantly adjusting to the environment, changes that the body system encounter. It is equilibrium because body function are kept within specific ranges. So we prelude the animal nutrition and digestive system. All living things need nutrients to survive, while plants can obtain the molecule required for cellular function. The biological molecules necessary for animal function are amino acids, lipid molecules, nucleotides, and simple sugar. However, the food consumed consists of protein, smaller components, and later, they are absorbed by the body. One of the challenges in human nutrition is maintaining a balance between food intake, storage, and energy expenditure. Imbalance, Imbalances can have serious health consequences. Animals obtain their own nutrition for the consumption of other organisms. Depending on their diet, animals can be classified into the following categories, which is the plant eaters, or it is also called herbivores. So the animals that eat meat or the meat eaters is also called carnivores. And those that eat both plants and animals, we are also called omnivores. So, the nutrients and micromolecules present in food are not immediately accessible for the cells. There are processes that modify food within the animal's body to make the nutrients or organic molecules needed for cellular function. In animals, they have an animal cell. So, organelles organize a structure of distinctive morphology and function. It includes the nucleus, mitochondria, plastids, vacuoles, vesicles, ribosomes, and the cytoskeleton and prokaryotic structure such as anamosomes and ferlilosomes. Includes the plasma membrane. A typical animal cell within the cytoplasm. The major organelles and cellular structure includes: first is the nucleus. The function of nucleus is the control center of the cell, contain genetic information. This is the brain of the cell. It controls the cell activities. So, in nucleus, there are four parts, which is the first is the nuclear core. And the function of nuclear core is it is the one who portion of a nuclear reactor containing the nuclear composite components. There are nuclear reaction take place and the heat is generated. Then the second parts of nucleus is the nucleolus. The function of nucleolus is the largest structure in the nucleus of eukaryotic cells. It is best known as the site of ribosomes biogenesis. So the third part of nucleus is it also called nucleoplasm. The substance of a cell nucleus, especially the not forming part of a nucleolus. Then the last part of nucleus is the nuclear envelope. The function is highly regulated membrane barrier that separates the nucleus from the cytoplasm in eukaryotic cells. Then the second part of animal cell is the ribosomes. Then the function of ribosomes is an organelle make proteins or the proteins maker of the cell. They are found near the wrap or it is also called wrap endoplasmic reticulum and floating in the cytoplasm. Ribosomes is the protein builders or synthesizers. So, let's proceed to the third part of animal cells, which is the cilium, or in plural, it is also called cilia. The function of cilium are small like protuberances on the outsides of eukaryotic cells. They are primarily responsible for locomotion either of the cell itself or of fluids on cell surface. Let's proceed to the next part of animal cell. It is the cell membrane. So the function of cell membrane, it is give cell a shape, helps the cell to communicate with the exterior, adheres to neighboring cells to form tissue. It controls what enters and leaves the cell, controls entry into and out of the cell, protects the cell from the environment, helps to keep materials within cell. So, let's proceed to another part of animal cell, which is the smooth endoplasmic reticulum. The function of smooth endoplasmic reticulum is transport system in cell. It is an organelle round in both animal cell. An organelle is a subunit within a cell that has a specialized function. The main function of smooth endoplasmic reticulum is to make cellular products like hormones and lipids. Then we have a summary for smooth endoplasmic reticulum. We have first is the lipid synthesis. Then the second is the detoxification of an alcohol and drugs. So let's proceed to the next part of animal cell. It is also called the rough endoplasmic reticulum. So the function of rough endoplasmic reticulum, it is one of the transport system in the cell. It is an organelle found in eukaryotic cell. It is the main function is to produce protein. It is made up of certinae, tubules, and vesicles. The certinae are made up of plantain membrane discs, which are involved in modification of protein. So in rough endoplasmic reticulum, we have summary for this. We have protein synthesis. Then we're going to proceed the next part of animal cell, which is the mitochondrion. The function of mitochondrion is to convert food we eat into energy we use, assist in cell growth, cell cycle, and cellular. It's the organelle for cellular respiration, provides energy, generate the cell's energy by using energy oxygen to release energy stored in cellular nutritions. Respiration is also a course of this. So, let's proceed to the next part of animal cell. It is the cytoplasm. The function of cytoplasm, it is the watery, liquid-like, jelly-like liquid that fills the cell. It is where the chemical reaction takes place. The jelly-like substances or the watery that builds and protects the cell organelles, and which the organelles float. The cytoplasm holds water and nutrients. So, let's proceed to another part of animal cell, which is the secretory vesicles. The function of it is that mediate the vesicular transport of cargo, hormones or neurotransmitters from an organelle to a specific site at the cell membrane, where it docks and fuses to release its content. It has been demonstrated that membrane-bound secretory vesicles dock and fuses at forames, which are specialized supramolecular structure at the cell membrane. So, let's proceed to the next part of animal cell, which is the Golgi apparatus. The function is processes and packages proteins and transport them to other parts of animal cell or outside the cell. Package and distributes energy, secretion of cell products, and form lysosomes. This structure packages and nerves protein through the cell organelle. Let's proceed to the next, which is the peroxisomes. Peroxisomes, their function was break down hydrogen peroxides, harmful compound. Peroxisomes are involved in the synthesis of lipids, are bile acids. They break down molecules by oxidative reaction and produce hydrogen peroxide. It is a harmful compound. Peroxides are membrane-bound packets of oxidative enzymes. In plants, peroxisomes play a variety of roles, including converting fatty acids to sugar and assisting chloroplast in photorespiration. In animal cells, peroxisomes protect the cell from its own production to toxic hydrogen peroxide. Next is the centrosome. The function of centrosome are structures that are found inside of cells. They are only found inside of eukaryotic cells. Centrosomes are comprised of two centrioles that are essentially just rings of microtubules. The purpose of centrosomes is to help organize microtubules. Hollow tubes of protein similar looking to microscopic hollow spaghetti to be utilized during cell division. It also works to use the microtubules to create part of the cytoskeleton of the cell. This help gives the cell its structure. In a sense, the centrosomes helps to establish the structure of the cell. While this might seem like simplistic tasks, they are extremely important and critical roles. The centrosomes itself consists of two centrioles that held perpendicular to one another. The centrioles are just a fancy way to name a specific arrangement of the microtubes. They are held together in a set way. As attacks of three microtubules, they are connected in 9 bundles arranged in a ring. If you were to cut a cross-section of it, would appear to look like a star. There are role in cell division of centrosomes, which as stated earlier, centrosomes are essential for cell division. During cell division, the centrioles that make up the centrosomes begin to push away from another centrosomes. As they do, small mitotic spindles made of microtubules begins to form between the two distinct centrosomes. The centrosomes move away from one another due to the lightening of these microtubules. So, the next part of animal cells is the lysosome. The function of it breaks down the old cell parts, break down cellular waste into building blocks, destroy foreign invaders. Lysosomes are indigestive sacs that contain enzymes to break down cellular waste or debris from outside the cell into new building material. The function of lysosome or centriole in animal cell are: they will focus on the main function of centriole. It helps to cell division in animal cell. The centrioles help in the information of the spindle fibers that separate the chromosome during cell division or the mitosis. So, let's proceed to the phylum, which is another animal structure. So, phylum in biology is in plural phyla, is a level of classification or taxonomic rank below kingdom and above class. Traditionally, in botany, the term division has been used instead of phylum, although the international codes of nomenclatures for algae, fungi, and plants accepts the term as equivalent. Phylum is the taxonomic ranking that comes third in the hierarchy of classification after domain and kingdom. Organisms in a phylum share a set of characteristics that distinguishes them from organisms in other phylum. The qualities that groups animals into a phylum have changed throughout scientific history, as better methods have arisen to determine how groups of animals are related. Modern phylogenetic systematics, or simply phylogenetic, uses a variety of traits to map the changes between the different groups of animals. Different hypotheses of how a phylum is related to other phyla, which the plural of phylum. Create different cladograms which display the relationship visually. The cladogram that is the most parsimonious or has the fewest number of changes and usually accepted as the most likely hypothesis of the relationships between different phyla. Plants, protists, and bacteria have also been categorized into division. Historically, the word was later changed to phylum. There are approximately 35 animal phylum, 12 plant phyla, and 7 phyla of fungi. The bacteria, including the archaea, are grouped into rough 34 phyla. Although the relationships between these groups are not as well established, the exact numbers of phyla are never known for sure, as new evidence and techniques are discovered. For instance, with the advance of genetic testing, many groups that were thought to be monophyletic were found to have very different genetics. Monophyletic is a term to describe a complete groups with all the common ancestors. Polyphyletic groups contains organisms that do not share a recent ancestors, and many groups would have to be included to make the phylum monophyletic. In these cases, the phylum is split into multiple phyla. Other times, two different phylum are found to closely related and will be combined into the same phylum. So, what is the classified as a phylum? Mammals, including humans, are parts of the phylum Chordata, which also include fishes, amphibians, reptiles, and birds. As you can say, that a very broad category. Phylums comes above class, below kingdom in the biological classification system. First one that we classified as phylum is the Animalia. The function of Animalia. The animal kingdom contains the 7 phyla: Porifera, Cnidaria, Platyhelminthes, Annelida, Mollusca, Arthropoda, and Chordata. The bodies of animals are made up of differentiated tissues to perform and quality specialized tasks, sometimes in 2 or more 3 levels of differentiation, including sponge. Most animals also reproduce sexually and are diploid, meaning they are contain 2 copies of their genetic materials. Animals also lack cell walls, which are the primary structure of organism in the phyla Plantae. Mollusks, crustaceans, and nematodes make up most of all organisms, while Chordata, both the skeletal structures and the phyla that we are put in as human, take up a small fraction of organisms in comparison. So, there are 7 kingdom of Animalia. First is the Porifera. The function of Porifera is the more common name of the Porifera is the sponge. Porifera are the marine animals, although with an exemption of the freshwater one. They are found in every known part of the ocean and directly interact with many other animals in the ocean. One of these interactions is where a sponge grows on the shell on a snail and it is being used by a hermit crab, and then will move around as the hermit crab does. In general, sponge ate by filtering out bacteria out of the water around it, and are even capable to regulating the flow of water around it. There is an exemption, however, where some sponge can capture crustaceans as they brushed around it. The cells gradually draw the crustaceans and then the cells digest in from the outside. Porifera are both female and male. During the different parts of a personal reproductive cycle, They produce either sperms or eggs by releasing their sperms into the water. It may get carried, and when it comes in contact with other porifera of the same species, it may fertilize, and eggs it may currently have. This does apply to all porifera, as some reproduce asexually. Some porifera includes the sea anemones and sea sponge. So, the second animal kingdom of phyla, which is the Cnidaria or Cnidaria. The Cnidaria, the function of rest, are very different, but a few key traits lead us to believe that they are all have a common ancestors. Therefore, belong in a group together. Cnidarians all have some physical form that is similar. They are all tall and round with modest like thin rails floating around them. They are especially notable that there are the most feathery parts are nothing like those in birds. The trait that most people are familiar with and that makes scientists believe that they are all related is the fact that they are hope-straying cells, which is their primary defense mechanism. Coral, anemones, bugs, jellies, and jellies are all parts of this group. So let's proceed to the next animal kingdom of phyla, which is the. Let's proceed to another part of animal kingdom of phyla, which is the Platyhelminthes. So the function of Platyhelminthes are better known as flatworms. Flatworms are symmetrical and are made of 3 layers of cells. Other than August, these organisms had no cavities. Because of these features, these organisms must depend on diffusion and process of gradual spreading out of matter, which makes it so must retain their flat shape. Flatworms are internal parasites or organisms that survive by feeding on matter inside another organism's organs. It is believed that most flatworms descend from the same ancestors as many mollusks and earthworms, while the rest seem to evolve from the more basic roots of animals. Frogs, planarians, and marine flatworms are all Platyhelminthes. So, the next parts of animal kingdom of phyla is the Annelida. Annelida, the function of this are segmented worms, including earthworms, leeches, and marine worms. We know of about 9,000 different Annelida. Annelida do not include the smooth worms that comes to mind when we think of them, but also bristled ones too. So Annelida includes bristle worms, earthworms, and leeches. So let's proceed to the another animal kingdom of phyla, which is mollusca. The function of mollusca has at least 50,000 species, although it is estimated that there are more than 200,000, such as clams, oysters, snails, and octopus. Mollusca are one of the organisms that have an exoskeleton which is made of chitin, such as the shells of snail. Although they are very diverse in shape and have, for example, from 1 foot on a snail to 8 feet on an octopus, they are seen to retain some patterns, such as all seems to have an area for their head distinctly separated from the area. With their feet, mollusca are also major parts of almost every ecosystem. For example, in some cases, up to 3,000 species have been found in one coral reef. Of the reasons for this is that they have highly valuable diet. So, the last animal kingdom of phyla are, or the sixth, is the Arthropoda. The function of Arthropoda take three vertebrate living things and fossil organisms. Arthropods are also covered in all exoskeleton made of shit. Is what makes organisms in this phylum so crunchy, such as ants, crabs, crayfish, and lobster. The phylum gets. So, the great success of the arthropods is likely owing to the very features that make them unique, namely their segmented bodies join appendage and though exoskeleton. In this section, we will examine this characteristic in more detail when we'll analyze the internal organs. Systems of arthropods including their digestive system, circulatory system, respiratory system, and nervous system. So, there are segments and exoskeleton. The general body plans of arthropods is divided into three main regions, which first is the head, thorax, and abdomen. So, this region also called tagmata, and they are formed by groups of body segments that are earlier fused and together or linked by joint tissue. The last part of animal kingdom, which is the phylum Chordata, think of an animal that lives in the zoo. Unless you thought of an octopus or one of the insects in the rainforest pavilion, chances that you're two of animals in the phylum Chordata. This phylum includes also animals with a notochord, a dorsal hollow nerve curves, and a muscular prostanal tail. These three features are seen in every member of the phylum. Even humans, many animals lost of the insects in the rainforest pavilion. Many animals lost of these features as they develop. This phylum includes everything from the smallest fish and tunicates to the great apes. It is one of the 8th different known phylum in terms of species. It only has around 50,000 described species. The other phyla combined had well over 2 million described species, with the phylum Arthropoda having well over 1 million described species itself.
So, welcome everyone. We're going to tackle about the digestive system. Okay, so we're talking about the digestive system of a animal. So now, animal for the most part engines. Their food as large complex molecules that must be broken down into smaller molecules. That must be broken down into smaller molecules that can then be distributed throughout the body of every cell. This vital function is accomplished by a series of specialized organs that compress the digestive system. Representative digestive system are shown in figure 1. Okay, digestive system is a single cell organism can directly take into nutrients from their outside environment. Multicellular animals, with most of their cells removed from the contained directly with the outside environment, have developed specialized structures from obtaining and break down their food. Animals depend on two processes, feeding and digestion. So we're going to um, study about their digestion. Animals are heterotrophs. They must absorb or absorb nutrients or ingest food sources. Ingestive eaters, the majority of animals use a mouth to ingest food. Absorptive feeders, such as tapeworms, live in a digestive system of another animals and absorb nutrients from the animals directly to their body. Particles from the surrounding water. Substrate feeders such as earthworms and terminate eats the materials. Dirt of wood, they burrow through. Fluid feeders such as aphids pierce the body of a plant or animals and withdraw fluids. So this is a figure 1. The digestive system of representative animals image from Pure Science Biology edition by Singular Associated. The nematode has mouth, intestine, and anus. The earthworm has pharynx, crop, intestine, anus, mouth, esophagus, and gizzard. The snail have radula, mouth, liver, stomach, intestine, and anus. The cockroach, esophagus, crop, gizzard, mandible, salivary glands, intestine, anus, rectum. The rabbit has salivary glands, pancreas, caecum, rectum, teeth, esophagus, liver, stomach, large intestine, and anus, small intestine. The digestive system uses mechanical and chemical methods to break food down into nutrient molecules that can be absorbed into the blood. Once in the blood, the food molecules en route to every cell in the animal's body. There are two types of animal body, plants as well as two locations for digestion to occur. Sac-like plants are found in many invertebrates who have a single opening for food intake and the discharge of waste. Vertebrates, the animals group human belong to, use the more efficient or tube within a tube plan, with food entering through an opening, the mouth, and waste leaving through another, the anus. Where the digestion of the food happens is also variable. Some animals use intracellular digestion, where food is taken into cells by phagocytosis, with digestive enzymes being secreted into the phagocytic vesicle. This type of digestion occurs in sponge, coelenterate, corals, hydras, and their relatives. And most protozoan extracellular digestion occur in the lumen or opening of a digestive system, with the nutrients molecules being transferred to the blood or or some other body fluids. These more advanced type digestion occur in chordates, annelids, and crustaceans. Stage in digestive system. Food for the most part consists of various organisms, macromolecules such as starch, proteins, and fats. These molecules are polymers made of individual monomers units. As discussed in the earlier chapter, breaking this large molecule into smaller components involved: number 1, movement, propel food through the digestive system. Number 2, secretion. Release of digestive system juice is response to a specific simulation or stimulus. Number 3, digestion. Breakdown of food into molecular components small enough cross the plasma membrane. Absorption. Passage of the molecules into the body interior and their passage throughout the body. Elimination. Removal of undigested food and waste. Three processes occur during what we loosely refer to as a digestion. Digestion proper, which is the mechanical and chemical breakdown of foods into particell molecules small enough to pass into the blood. Absorption is a passage of food monomers into the bloodstream. Assimilation is the passage of food molecules into the body cell. Components of digestive system of animals. The human digestive system, as shown in figure 2, is a coiled, muscular tube 6 to 9 meters long when fully extended, stretching from other mouth to the anus. Several specialized compartments occur along this length: mouth, pharynx, esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine, and anus. Accessory digestive organs are connected to the main system by a series of ducts. Salivary glands, part of the pancreas and liver and gallbladder. As you see, this is the digestive system of a human. Mechanical breakdown begins in the mouth by chewing and action of the tongue. Chemical breakdowns of starch by production of salivary amylases from the salivary glands. This mixture of food, or saliva, is the punch into the pharynx and esophagus. The esophagus is a muscular tube whose muscular contractions propel food to the stomach. In the mouth, teeth, jaws, and the tongue begin the mechanical breakdown of the food into smaller particles. As shown in figure 3, most vegetables except birds who have lost their teeth to a hardly built have teeth for tearing, grinding, and chewing food. The tongue manipulates foods during chewing and swallowing. Mammals have taste buds clusters of their tongue. Salivary glands secretly salivary analyze an enzyme that begins the breakdown of starch into glucose. Mucus moistens food and lubricates the esophagus. Bicarbonates ions in saliva neutralize the acid in foods. Swallowing moves foods from the mouth through the pharynx into the esophagus and the stomach. A mass of chewed, moistened food, a bolus is moved to the back of the mouth by the tongue. In the pharynx, the bolus triggers an involuntary swallowing reflex that prevents food from entering the lungs and direct the bolus into the esophagus. Muscles in the esophagus prepare the bolus by waves of involuntary muscular contractions of smooth muscle lining in the esophagus. Peristalsis is shown in figure 4. Step 3. The bolus passes through the gastropareil sphincter into the stomach. Heartburn results from irritation of esophagus by gastric juice, the leak through the sphincter. During a meal, the stomach gradually fills to the capacity of 1 liter. From an empty capacity of 50 to 100 millimeters, at the pierce of this confront, the stomach can distend to hold 2 liters or more. Epithelial cells linear inner surface of the stomach, as shown in figure 5, and the secrete about 2 liters of gastric juice per day. Gastric juice contains hydroacids, pepsinogen, and mucus. Ingredients important in digestion. Secretions are controlled by nervous smells through a caffeine and endocrine signals. The stomach secrete hydrochloric acid and pepsin. Hydrochloric acid, HCl, lowers pH of the stomach, so pepsin is an enzyme that controls the hydrolysis of proteins in peptides. The stomach also mechanically crunches the food. Time, the mix of acid and food in the stomach leave the stomach and enter the small intestine. Hydrochloric acid does not directly function in digestion. It kills microorganisms, lowers the stomach pH to between 1.5 and 2.5, and activates pepsinogen. Pepsinogen is an enzyme that starts protein digestion. Pepsinogen is a produced cell in the line that gastric pits. It is activated by cleaving off a portion of molecules producing the enzyme pepsis that splits up fragments of peptides from a protein molecules during digestion in the stomach. Carbohydrate digestion, began by salivary analysis in the mouth, continues in the bolus. It passes the stomach. The bolus is broken down into acid chyme into the lower third of the stomach, allowing the stomach acidity to inhibit further carbohydrates breakdown. Protein digestion by pepsin begins. Alcohol and aspirin are absorbed through the stomach line into the blood. Epithelial cells secrete mucus that forms a protective barrier between the cells in the stomach acids. Pepsin is inactive when it comes into contact with the mucus. Bicarbonate ions reduce acidity near the cells lining the stomach tight junctions like the epithelial stomach lining cells together, further reducing or preventing stomach acids from passing. Peptic ulcers results when this protective mechanism fail. Bleeding ulcers result when tissue damage is so severe the bleeding occurs into the stomach. Perforated ulcers are life-threatening situation where a hole has formed in the stomach, while at least 90% of peptic ulcers are caused by Helicobacter pylori. Other factors including stress and aspirin can also produce ulcers. The small intestine shows in figure number 6, where final digestion and absorption occurs. The small intestine is a coiled tube over 3 meters long. Coils and folding plus valve give this 3 tube the surface area in 500 to 600 meters long tube. Final digestion of proteins and carbohydrates must occur, and fats have not yet been digested will have cells and produce the intestinal enzymes which complete the digestion of peptides and sugar. The absorption of process also occurs in the small intestine. Food has been broken down into the particles small enough to pass into the small intestine. Sugar and amino acids go to the bloodstream via capillaries in each bolus. Glycerol and fatty acids go into the lymphatic system. Absorption in the active transport requires cellular energy. Food is mixed in the lower part of stomach by peristaltic wave that also propel the acid crime picture against the pyloric sphincters. Increased contractions of stomachs push the food through the sphincters and into the small intestine as the stomach empties over a 1 to 2 hour period. High fat diet significantly increase the time period. The small intestine is the major size for digestion and absorption of nutrients. The small intestine is up to 6 meters long and 2 to 3 centimeters wide. The upper the upper part, the duodenum, is the most active in digestion, secretions from the liver, pancreas, and digestion of radical storm blade in the duodenum. Types of animal digestive system. The first one is the mongaristic, avian ruminant, and pseudo-ruminant are the four basic types of digestive system in animals. To select the proper type of feed for animals, knowledge of these four different types of digestive system is critical. Okay. Digestion is a process of breaking down feed into small substance that can be absorbed by the blood absorption and taking the digest part of feed into the bloodstream. The digestive system consists of the part of the body involved in chewing and digesting feed. The system is also moved the digestive feed through the animal's body absorb the product of digestion. Different species of animals are better able to digest certain types of feed than others. Monogastric digestive system. A monogastric digestive system has one simple stomach. The stomach secretly acid resulting in a low pH of 1.5 to 2.5. The low pH destroy most bacteria and begins to break down the feed materials. Animals with type of digestive system are better adapted in each rations high in fibers, concentrated and typically 80 to 90% digestible. Common concentrates are certain grains and oils and meals. Cereal grains includes corn, wheat, barley, and oats. Oatmeal includes soybean meal, lysine meal, and cottonseed meal. Example of monogastric animals are hats, hogs, cats, dogs, and humans. This is the examples of basic diagrams for digestive of a hog. He has a mouth, esophagus, liver, stomach, pancreas, small intestine, anus rectum, and large intestine. Let's go to another, the avian digestive system. The avian digestive system found in poultry. The system differs greatly from the other types. When we say poultry, it has a birds that can be eaten. Since poultry don't have teeth, there is no chewing. Poultry breaks their feet into pieces small enough to swallow by picking with their beaks or stretching with their feet. Feed enters the mouth, travels in the esophagus, and empties directly into the crop. The crop is where the food is stored, and soak food from move to the crop to the provinciculus. The provinciculus is the stomach in a bird. So, ayun yung, it is the stomach of the bird. Where gastric enzymes and hydrochloric acid are secreted from the proviculus, the food makes its way to the gizzard. The gizzard is a very muscular organ which normally contains girths or zone fictions like teeth and grind the food. The food then moves from the gizzard or to the small intestine and then the large intestine. This is the figure 2, a basic diagram of the digestive system of a chicken. So a chicken has a mouth, esophagus, crop, proventriculus, gallbladder, spleen, liver, gizzard, pancreas, small intestine, cocoa, ceca, duodenal loop, large intestine. So let's go to the other one. Ruminant digestive system. The ruminant digestive system has a large stomach divided into 4 compartments: the rumen, the reticulum, the omasum, and the abomasum. The ruminant digestive system is found in cattle, sheep, goats, and deer. Ruminant animals eat feed rational that are high in growth and low in concentrate. Growths are feed stuff that are higher in fiber, low in energy, and typically only 50 to 65% of digestible. The rumen, the first largest section of the stomach is the rumen. In the rumen, solid feed is mixed and partially broken down. The rumen contains millions of bacteria and other microbes that promotes fermentations which break down through our roach. The reticulum is the second segment of the stomach. The reticulum is the small punch in the side of the rumen that traps foreign materials such as wire, nails, and so forth. Since ruminants do not chew their food before swallowing, they will occasionally swallow foreign objects. So this is the figure number 3, a basic diagram of a digestive system of a cow. So it has esophagus, rumen, small intestine, reticulum, obasum. Next, the omasum is the third compartment of the stomach. The abomasum is the fourth compartment of the stomach. So let's go to the next. The pseudo-ruminant digestive system. It is an animal that eats large amount of food but does not have a stomach with several compartments. The digestive system does not have the same function of those ruminants. For example, in the horse, the cecum ferments foragis. An animal with a pseudo-ruminant digestive system can utilize large amount of raw gas because of the greatly enlarged cilium in the large intestine, which provides areas for microbial digestion of fiber. Pseudo-ruminant often eats forage as well as grain and other concentrated feeds. Besides horse, example of pseudo-ruminants are rabbits, guinea pigs, and hamsters. Okay, I'm going to summary all of that. For in short, it is a digestion of process breaking down the feed into small processed substance that can be absorbed into the bloodstream. The 4 bases of types of digestive system is an animal are monogastric. Avian ruminants are pseudo-ruminants. Monogastric animals such as swine eat ration site of concentrated. The avian digestive system found in poultry is completely different from the other 3 types of digestive system. A poultry animals doesn't have teeth, but have a crop, a proventriculus, a gizzard, and a cloaca. The ruminant digestive system found in the cattle, sheep, goats. Ruminants can eat feed ration that are high in growth. The ruminant digestive system has a large stomach divided into 4 compartments. The rumen, the reticulum, omasum, and the abomasum. A pseudo-ruminant is an animal that eats large amount of glutathione but does have not a 4th compartment stomach. A pseudo-ruminant animals can utilize growth because of enlargement cilium of a.
Good morning everyone. Let's discuss about feeding of animals. We have 4 main feeding mechanisms of animals. First, filter feeding. Strain small organism on food particles from surrounding medium. Second, bulk feeding. Eat relatively large pieces of food. Third, fluid feeding. suck nutrient-rich fluid from a living host. Fourth, substrate feeding, animals that live on their food source. What is the difference between feed and feeding? Both feed and fed shared a common definition, but they are indicate different tenses. Therefore, they are not interchangeable. Feed is the base of the verb and related to giving someone or something food. Fed is the past form of feed and can also be short for Federal Reserve or federal official. What are the main source of nutrients for animals? Animal nutrition focuses on dietary needs of animals, primarily those in agriculture and food production, but also in zoos, aquariums, and wildlife management. There are 7 major subclasses of nutrients: carbohydrates, fats, fiber, minerals, proteins, vitamins, and water.